from somatic practices. Hi, I'm Rai, and this ministry is on a mission to help you embody healing. Let's answer your questions and call in expansion so you can integrate these highly effective evidence-based tools into your journey. Embodied microdosing is where science and spirituality meet to awaken the healer within. Let's take one conscious breath together. And begin. Welcome back to another episode of the Embodied Microdosing podcast. I'm excited to be here with you today and explore this topic. It's one that's near and dear to my heart as a medicine maker and someone who's always loved, probably because of my background in food and nutrition, just loved playing with the various forms that we can commune with the sacred mushroom in. So we're going to explore today, what form do I take my microdose in? What are the benefits and drawbacks of the various ways that we can actually take it from the hand and put it into the body, of course, with intention and reverence and respect. So long time ago, way back in 2017, when there was not a lot of information on Google about how to microdose, I was given a spice jar filled with ground sacred mushrooms, ground psilocybin mushrooms, by a dear friend. And she said, take a little pinch every few days. That's it. That was the full instruction manual there. And so I Googled enough to know that I couldn't take it every day. And I didn't have a little milligrams scale. And I explored. I took a pinch. I bought a little spoon and put some in a capsule to see how it was to swallow it. I mixed a little bit into my coffee. I put it straight onto my tongue, ground, and washed it down with water. I took more than a microdose and explored that experience. And for many years worked with whole fungi. You'll hear me call it that, meaning the dried mushrooms in various forms, grinding, taking directly, making into a tea, putting it in capsules. And then, of course, having friends and community members share things like chocolates and gummies. And so I really did experience the sacred mushroom in every way that you can extract the psilocybin, the medicinal compound that converts to psilocin in the body when it comes in contact with your stomach acid, and that gives you the desired effects and that you can then work with. And I stumbled across some challenges in working with the sacred mushroom in that way. First was that I often felt nauseous. This is not uncommon when working with mushrooms. Certainly in higher doses, you'll hear people say for their journey, they spent the whole 6 or 8 hours nauseous, or spent some time vomiting, or had a stomach ache, or just felt physically really off from that. And there's a whole other podcast episode in here around this topic of, what those symptoms, for lack of a better word, might be showing you. What they might be revealing to you, because it's never just happening on the physical, right? Healing is also happening on the energetic and the spiritual and the emotional. So we don't want to just say like, okay, I took a medicine and it made me have a stomach ache, so it's a bad medicine, right? Maybe you're going to choose not to work with it. Think about ayahuasca. If you know anything about working with that sacred plant, purging and vomiting can be a big part of what someone experiences on that journey, and it's very much part of the healing. So purging happens even in microdoses, and that could just look like nausea or stomach ache. But I have to say, I can't work with something that's going to produce physical symptoms that are so triggering to me as an individual who's had echoes of a digestive disease for my whole life. And so whole plant, chewing on a gnarly mushroom, taking some powder and popping it on my tongue and swallowing it oftentimes made the physical symptoms so uncomfortable to me that I started to explore even more. How else can I take it? And one of the things I read and I think is really interesting, and honestly, I think it may apply to a lot of mushrooms, even functional mushrooms, is that the actual fruiting body, the the mushroom itself, the like when it's fresh, the like squishy part, think of like a shiitake or a portobello, right? Like the actual mushroom, I'm not entirely sure that we're supposed to eat all of those mushrooms. I mean, I've never had a problem with a portobello or a shiitake, but I've certainly eaten fresh lion's mane and other functional mushrooms, turkey tail, and have felt a little bit off in my stomach as well. There's a compound called chitin. I think that's how you pronounce it in mushrooms, chitin, and that's like undigestible fibrous matter. And so I really feel like sacred mushrooms also may not be meant to just eat, maybe not dried. I've never tried them fresh. Maybe the community can chime in and see if there might be a difference in nausea and stomach aches from fresh to dried. But this is what led me to water extract. This is what led me to tea. This is what led me to taking the mushroom, even in microdoses, and putting a little boiling water over it and letting it brew like a tea, and then straining out the actual fibrous matter and drinking the tea, right? So mushrooms are water soluble. Sacred mushrooms are water soluble, meaning that the psilocybin, the compound that we want, is actually on the mushroom. Think of it like a powder on the outside. And when we put it in water, when we grind it up and open it up and put it in water, that medicinal compound can be extracted into the water. And when I took a water extract, a tea, right, then took that little bit of tea and, put it into whatever I was drinking, or just knocked it back with some lemon, or you can even brew it with a chamomile tea bag or a black tea bag, and took it that way, it was a very different experience. Oh, it did not hit my stomach the same way. I did not feel that nausea. And even the actual experience of working with the sacred mushroom, how it was moving through me, felt different. It felt a little more magical, for lack of a better word. It felt right in my body, right? We're all so different. And so that's when my eyes were opened to extracting the sacred properties and leaving behind the fibrous matter. Okay, that was a huge aha for me in this journey. I want to also comment on the other ways that you may encounter microdoses if they've been prepared for you. That whole fungi may be ground and put in capsules. That's a very common way to experience a microdose. The drawback of that being that the dose is set, unless you're going to open up the capsule and work with taking some out. That's the dose that you're receiving. You also may receive chocolates or gummies. A chocolate most likely is, and a gummy, both of those are going to have either the extract, liquid extract made in it, certainly the gummy, right? The water that's used to make gummy is probably psilocybin water, tea water, mushroom water. There's not going to be pieces of mushroom in a gummy. And the chocolate could be either composed of ground mushrooms in there or an extract. There's no way of knowing unless you have contact with the person who made the product. So those are also two ways to take the medicine, and both of those ways have not sat well with me physically and energetically. Just combining sugar and other ingredients and maybe questionable ingredients and not knowing the quality of the sacred mushroom that was used to make those, I always just felt weird taking those. And I'm super sensitive. I will say that the additives, sugar, whatever is needed to emulsify and make these treats what they are, doesn't typically sit well with me physically and energetically. I have to say, no, I'm not throwing any shade if chocolates and gummies work for you, but same as cannabis, it just feels like whoever has made it, even intentionally, they've disguised the actual properties to be like a tasty treat. And it just separates me from the experience of communing with the actual mushroom and makes it way too easy to take too much, right? Same with an edible. Like, well, this is yummy. How about I just take another block or another nibble or another gummy? And I find that it can take us away from the intentionality of being in direct sacred communion with the mushroom. Okay, so those are some of the ways you can take it, and really the downsides. I also have experienced stomach aches with chocolates specifically, not so much with gummies, probably because they're water extracted. So take it however it works for you. And I want to just direct you to the method, the formula, the way that I now take and work with the sacred mushroom. I want to stop saying take, FYI. That makes it sound like it's not a conversation, right? I'm going to take it from you. I'm going to use it, right? I'm using mushrooms. That's another word that's a little like, right? Working with, I think, is a beautiful communing with, a beautiful way to explain the conversation between your consciousness and the consciousness of the sacred mushroom. But all of this, that aha moment, let's go back to that. When I first extracted it into tea, into water, and had a completely different, not just physical experience, but sort of energetic and spiritual experience as well, made me realize, oh, there's another way. And I set out for 2 years to create a liquid extract that would be shelf stable, that would be discreet and portable and easy to take and work with, easy to commune with, and would really address that nausea, stomach ache thing that happens. And that has been made possible through working with an herbalist and a chemist to develop a liquid formulation, a tincture. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what a tincture is and what the benefits are. But I skipped something, and I want to go back real quick. There was one other thing that would happen for me with working with whole plant, whole fungi, whether it was a capsule or a chocolate or a gummy or just a gnarly shroom, that I have heard reflected through you all, that I've heard from you all, is also a thing. So there were several times in taking a capsule where I felt like I was tripping on a huge amount of mushrooms, that I was having a much bigger experience than that quarter of a gram or a 0.15 or whatever that capsule measured out at dosage wise did not seem to equal what was happening for me in my body. So I've heard many of you say, upon taking what you thought was a reasonable microdose, you experienced intense visuals, feeling like heavy and emotional and like gobbledygook. That's what one of my brothers calls it, gobbledygook. Like you're moving through mud, like blah, in your body. All of the indications of like having taken a 3-gram dose or a 2-gram dose or even a 1-gram dose, but you took a quarter of a gram, right? Whoa, why is this amount acting so much bigger in my body? This can happen with the whole fungi. And I will say there was one time early on in developing the tincture where it also happened to me with the tincture, and I went into a full-blown psychedelic experience. And what I learned afterwards is that particular batch that I had made, that tincture that was sitting around, I hadn't strained out the whole plant. So it continued to ferment and get stronger in there. Again, evidence that working with the whole fungi, the whole fibrous matter in all of its magic and potency may not be the best, the safest, the most desirable way to microdose. Certainly for a macrodose, heck yeah, that's the whole idea. That's what we want to happen, right? In a safe set and setting and with intention. We're talking about being able to take this while taking care of children and going to work and doing projects. Like it's critical that it not hit that hard and give you a bunch of symptoms and be messy and hard to measure with your scale on the counter at 7 o'clock in the morning, trying to figure out how much to put in your coffee, right? These are all the things that make microdosing for some people just feel too cumbersome and too much work, right? Not to mention that once you grind, and let's say you're like, okay, I don't have to do that work. I'm going to grind all of my mushrooms up and put them in this jar here, this mason jar here, and just leave it in my cabinet that I open and close. Or, hey, let's put it up on this shelf right here. Nobody knows what it is. At the moment you grind that mushroom, you are breaking it down and you are like decreasing the shelf life significantly. It's going to go bad much quicker. Certainly if it's being exposed to sunlight in a mason jar, holy smokes, that's like a number one reason that you would diminish the quality of any plant or fungi product. Exposing it to sunlight like that, opening it up, grinding it up, and then leaving it to sit, right? It's just, there is a shelf life. I can't tell you how long, but 6 months maybe or less. I believe it's going to start breaking down immediately. So based on that issue, measuring, messy, unable to regulate dose, goes bad easily, nausea and stomach aches, the tincture was developed. If you're feeling the call to microdose but unsure about where to start or to source, the Embodied Microdosing Sacrament Shop is a safe and sacred space for you to explore. Inside, you can find pure, organic, handcrafted tinctures, including our 2 mushrooms, psilocybin and Amanita muscaria, both designed for your healing, grounding, and connection. We also have flower remedies like rose, lavender, holy basil, just perfect to complement your mushroom microdosing practice. All of these liquid remedies are easy to dose, very tasty, and can be taken directly in your mouth or added to your tea or water. If you're curious about how they feel, you can read some of the testimonials inside the shop for inspiration. You can explore all of the offerings at embodiedmicrodosing.com/shop. These are sacred remedies for spiritual self-healers. That's embodiedmicrodosing.com/shop. What I have created here, and I'm not the first person to do this. I think there's a book called The Mushroom Bible that I have referenced. I don't even own it. There are some amazing blog posts online about how to extract from mushrooms. Like, this is not some sort of secret that I'm keeping from you about the extract that I've made using sacred mushrooms. And I'm fully disclose all of the high quality organic ingredients as well. Is that it solves all of these issues. It does not cause nausea and stomach aches for me, or I have not heard that report from anyone in the community. I'm way open, though, to you telling me if that has happened. I want information and data always. It does not produce the experience of having an accidental journey, as I call it, and it has happened many times early on, thankfully not anymore. It solves the issue of having to have like a little milligram scale and constantly needing to measure the dosage that you're taking, especially if you're titrating up and down and you want to be really specific about how much you're working with. And the shelf life is over 2 years, probably longer, to be honest with you. So let's talk about the tincture. Let's talk about what a tincture actually is first. If you've heard this term being thrown around, it is used quite broadly in the herbal preparation world and in the healing world when we're talking about formats and ways to take a medicine. It's just a liquid extraction. It's age old. You can do this with holy basil, a plant that might grow outside. You can do this with lion's mane, another type of mushroom. You can do this with, oh my gosh, anything. I do it with passion flower, which is amazing for sleep and anxiety, and it grows on my land in the summertime. So it's an extract, and herbalists generally follow a set of guidelines, but folk tinctures are measured from the heart typically and made with the medicine maker's intuition. And that's really how I developed this over many, many, many different batches. So basically, the plant or the fungus is placed in a liquid, and alcohol is the most traditionally recognized of the solvents, the liquid, and the medicine is extracted. That's like the tea that I told you about earlier. The mushrooms are put in water and the medicine is extracted, and you get rid of the plant material at the end. The sacrament that I have developed and that you are working with, if you have visited us at embodiedmicrodosing.com and explored the option of starting your journey there, is made with a triple extraction method. So I've just been gaga for getting as many of the constituents of the fungi friend extracted and concentrated into something that will allow you to literally take just a few drops. That's it. A few drops. Everyone's dose is a little different, and I'll talk about dosage in an upcoming future episode, into 3 mediums, organic grain alcohol. I used an organic ethanol, really clean, really high proof. And that's part of what ensures that it's got a 2+ years shelf life and that nothing is growing in the bottle, and we're dealing with something that's really pure, clean, filtered well water that I use for the second extraction, and organic lemon juice for the third extraction. And this is the part that really excites me because um, I talked about just for a moment earlier, said that psilocybin needs your stomach acid to convert into psilocin, which is the active ingredient that produces the desired effects in the brain. And if you've heard of something called the lemon tech, TEK, this is a method whereby you can extract psilocybin or just mix your mushroom powder with lemon juice or any type of citrus. I believe you can use lemon is the most popular, to convert it into psilocin outside of the body. So instead of it happening in your stomach with your stomach acid, it's happening on in your tea glass, right? Or whatever your mason jar, whatever you're making your lemon tech in. And so I make a lemon tech, a large lemon tech batch, and combine that then with the well water extract and the alcohol extract. And that lemon tech extract really ensures that the tincture, the sacrament, can be felt by everyone, because some people with low stomach acid have trouble perceiving the dose. And this kind of takes care of that a little bit and also provides some yummy flavor, and also just supports it coming up a little sooner. Because we place the sacrament under the tongue, there is some sublingual benefits to an absorption happening there. I really feel the benefits very quickly in just a couple of minutes. I'm highly attuned to the mushroom. We have a beautiful relationship, and so I may be feeling it sooner than the average person, but I do hear this from the community. It's not a long onset. Another one of the downsides sometimes of taking a powder, that it can take a while to be perceived. It has to get down into the stomach and, move with the stomach acid and then be distributed throughout the body in the digestive system, as opposed to sublingually and through digestion with the tincture. So I extract the plant materials, of course, at the end, and the liquid formula is further reduced and concentrated, and then mixed with a non-GMO palm-based vegetable glycerin for further preservation and a little bit of sweetness. And it produces a substance that drop by drop is lovely to taste. I've never had anybody taste it and go like, whoa, this is disgusting. It's not going to taste like a gummy or a chocolate, right? You may detect some shroominess, which I kind of think is the point, but you're going to get some lemon. You're going to get a little bit of that glycerin. It's going to be easy on the mouth. The alcohol does not hit very hard. You're not going to get a big alcohol hit, where it tastes like cheap vodka or anything like that with some extracts. And it's portable. All right, you're not bringing your dried mushrooms and your scale to your mother-in-law's house for Thanksgiving. You're just popping a little pretty bottle into your toiletry bag. It is under the weight limit for TSA, the liquid limit. And it's really more of a pleasure to work with, in terms of it being in a form that feels accessible and sacred. The little size, the small size, is in a pink bottle, and a friend recently started working with it, and she messaged me to say, this pink bottle is just screaming self-care at me, right? It's just inviting me into working with it. It's sort of like alluring and lovely and smooth in her hand, and she just felt this connection with even just the bottle and the fact that it's a liquid, right? Had I shared with this friend, who's pretty conservative in a lot of her beliefs, but really looking for some support, had I shared with her some gnarly mushrooms, right, and said, you need to go on Amazon and buy a scale to do this, and you need to grind this up in a coffee grinder or something like that, she would not be doing this, right? That is not accessible for someone who is so new to this, has a bunch of young kids in the house, doesn't want stuff around, certainly would not want chocolates and gummies that kids could find, right? Another downside of those products. And the little pink bottle just made this so accessible and lovely. And she said, she didn't say screaming, that's how I perceived it. It's just begging me. I think she said that it's begging me to work with it. It's so pretty. So accessibility and that sacred piece, that like, I want to sit down with this bottle in my hand and breathe for a minute and ask my highest self, how many drops should I take? And titrate up from 2 drops to 3 drops to 4 drops and slowly build trust with the tincture, with it in this medium, and grow my journey in communion with this format, this form of the medicine. I will say I follow the same procedure each time for making the tincture, yet the color and the strength vary slightly. This is because of natural variations with the strains of mushrooms and the flush of mushrooms that I'm working with. I am working to get it as consistent as possible. And there are no measurements at this time. It's not possible at this time to offer you a comparison of the liquid to ground mushrooms in terms of dosage. I say it's like comparing apples to apple cider. It's not apples to apples. It's an apple to an apple that's been fermented and extracted and concentrated and turned into a liquid. And so it's too difficult at this time until I'm able to get some lab testing, and I am working towards that, to know how much you're actually taking. But we've solved that by starting with 1 drop and titrating up drop by drop, which is a really small amount. 1 drop is very, very minute, extremely subtle. And this is how we measure just how many drops do you need? How many do you take? It's also what makes it really nice to work with as a variable. A capsule is a set amount. A chocolate is a set amount. Yes, you can break a chocolate up into pieces or break a gummy up into pieces, but those pieces may not all be the same size. Each drop is the same, and maybe it's a four drop day one day, and maybe it's an 8 drop day another day. Or if you are dropping into sacred space to journey inside the Journey to Heal membership with my guidance, or anywhere where you're working with a guide to hold the space for you, even a therapy session or a massage, or some way that you are going to be inward with yourself, or processing your healing, or breathing, or meditating, that's when most people in the community would bump up their dosage a little bit. Okay, so you can take more if you're in a safe container with a good set and setting, and the tincture really allows you to ride the whole spectrum of doses from 1 drop to question mark, however many is coming through for you. And I will say there's like a safety in place with the tincture. I have had people experiment, and I have experimented with larger and larger doses, 20 drops, 30 drops, 40 drops, 50 drops. Exciting for some to think, ooh, I could just dump the whole bottle down my throat and have a huge psychedelic experience. The tincture actually is for microdosing, because those higher and higher doses do not produce the same effects as higher and higher doses of dried mushrooms. So maybe disappointing for those that are really just looking for a big journey or a trip. Great. So excited for you. The tincture is not what you want to do for that. You're just going to be wasting your money too. It would be better for you to obtain dried mushrooms to turn into a tea if you really want to have a big journey experience, instead of just lots and lots of drops of tincture. But 20 or 30 or 40 drops before a breathwork journey, oh yeah, that might open you up to more emotions. That might open you up to seeing some subtle movement or fractals behind closed eyes as you start breathing. That may open you up to way more ahas or realizations, or access to the spiritual plane, and healing yourself. Really, what we do and what happens in the Journey to Heal membership with these ceremonies. And the next day, you can take a break. And maybe the next day after that, integrate what came through, and then go back to your 3 drops or 4 drops or 5 drops. For your microdose, for your regular old day doing life and work and kids and business. So I hope that I've given you a little idea of the differences of how to work with these various forms, and some benefits of working with the tincture. Specifically, that no stomach aches or nausea was the reason it began. But then once I learned about the many, many benefits of a liquid extract and began to explore in this way, I wanted to share those with you. And I'm still sharing those with you. So I invite you to explore and work with the sacred microdosing mushroom as a tincture, as a liquid extract, please visit embodiedmicrodosing.com to get started, to join our ministry. There's no cost to join the ministry. That will give you access to the sacrament and to the many ways that I support you to work with the sacrament. I want to invite you to Breathwork Church. That's every Sunday, first Sunday of every month, not every Sunday. The first year I did it every Sunday. It was incredible. And I learned so much about supporting you to microdose and breathe in combination. But first Sunday of every month, you can mark your calendar. You can sign up on the embodiedmicrodosing.com website to get notifications about that. And this is an opportunity to take the dose and then have a healing experience, have an embodied experience with your breath and your body. So, yeah, let us know if you have any questions. There's a way to contact us. Come to church, try the sacrament, and explore for yourself what method, what dosage, what intention works best for you. It's so individualized. And please do reach out if you need any support at all. We're so excited to have you in the community and working with the sacrament. So many blessings to you, whatever and however you choose to explore on this sacred journey to heal. Mwah.